Hey everyone, it's Sarah and I am back for another month in my reading planner, so let's get started. First of all, I had my reading tracker. This was not my best reading month. I only read 5 books this month, which is fine. I had like a vacation at the beginning of the month and in the middle of the month, and I don't know, life just got busy, so not going to be sad about what I read, but it definitely wasn't the best reading month. Then moving in to my overview, as I said, I read 5 books this month, 30 pages, and my favorite book this month was None of This Is True. Here's where you can kind of see what I was reading. On the days I did read, I often started and finished, or started a couple of different books. So, there were days that I was really into reading, and then there were a lot of days that I didn't read or read very minimally. And as you can see, I mostly read physical books this month. I had a couple of Kindle books I was reading. I started an audiobook and I really didn't make it far in that. I finished for Bookopoly, I did not finish it. That one, I was planning on reading Drums of Autumn, and I'm still working on that. That's my audiobook that I started and I didn't really make it far. I think I just need to listen to, or just read the actual physical book. The audiobook, I just couldn't quite get into with the accents. And then my Roll Your Read, I had recommended by a friend, and I read None of This Is True. This is a book I had on my shelf, but my friend had said that it was a really good one, and so it kind of jumped higher on my want to read list because she had recommended it and I had it, so it worked out in that sense. The other book that I was reading and I didn't finish was Oliver Twist. I did finish it. We're in the first week of July now, and I did finish Oliver Twist. It just took me a little bit longer than June. Really glad to have that one done, but we'll talk about that in my next month's overview. I didn't complete a bingo. I read enough, but just because of how things were spaced out, didn't actually complete a bingo. And then out of my 3 priorities, I really only finished 1. I read 2 or more books of the month. I actually read 3 books of the month, which was pretty good. So then moving into my Goodreads tracker, this one is from the Shelfie Chronicles. I have, just slowly filling in. I had 3 physical books and 2 Kindle books this month, so I didn't read any audiobooks, to completion. And then, as I said, not my best reading month, but it's okay. It happens. So then, moving into the individual books, the first book I read this month was Almost Surely Dead. As an Amazon Prime member, I get a free Kindle book each month, and this was like a few months ago, maybe even, like January or February, something like that. And I picked this one up because, kind of almost exclusively because it mentioned the main character being a pharmacist, and I thought that would just be really fun. I'm a pharmacist. I don't see a ton of pharmacists in books unless it's, kind of nonfiction or something of that nature. But I think I would have almost enjoyed this book more if I wasn't a pharmacist, and I'll get into that in a minute. But you have Dunia, and she is a pharmacist, and she's been missing for over a year. There's a podcast currently going on about her life and, what events led up to her going missing, and, if there's any leads on finding her. But she's been missing for over a year, and leading up to her disappearance, she had a lot of weird things happen to her, kind of near-death experiences. She's waiting at the subway one day, and someone tries to push her onto the subway tracks, the railroad tracks, and tries to kill her. And other events, continue to happen to her leading up to her disappearance. So obviously, like, someone wanted her dead, something was going on, and you're trying to piece together what all happened. I'll say I didn't like the portrayal of her as a pharmacist just because it was unrealistic. I think, when they showed her at her work, she was doing things that aren't pharmacist duties, and then, more technician duties, and then also too, she was working at a CVS Walgreens type environment, which I'll tell you, those are not the most conducive to having, kind of a work-life balance, but she seemed to have every weeknight off, every weekend off, to go hang out. Like, every night she was going out for dinner or doing something with her friends, and it was just really unrealistic to me. She also had another friend who was her best friend in pharmacy school who ends up going into, like, making cosmetics, and that's just not a natural segue. The things you learn in pharmacy school wouldn't predispose you to, like, making cosmetics. There are, like, chemistry, or I'm trying to think of, like, what you would call it. There's other routes, but being an actual, like, PharmD isn't going to make you a cosmetic scientist. And also too, like, why would you waste 4 years getting a doctor of pharmacy to then go make makeup? I don't know. It was just, those were things that bugged me. And like I said, maybe wouldn't bug you if you're not a pharmacist. Also too, it took like a weird path, without spoiling it. It just took a weird path in the book that I wasn't expecting. And I'm not sure I totally liked that. When I'm reading a book, I don't know, I kind of expect certain things, and it just took a weird turn that I wasn't expecting based on the description and everything. So not my favorite book, 3 stars, moving on. This month, you could definitely say the theme for my books were podcast books. I had 3 out of my 5 books were like a podcast thriller. I'll say my favorite podcast thriller was None of This Is True, followed by Listen for the Lie. Listen for the Lie is another true crime podcast type thriller. You have Lucy and Savvy, who are best friends. Savvy ends up, getting murdered one night after a wedding, and Lucy is found walking the streets covered in blood, and she has, no memory of what happened to Savvy, of, what she was doing, anything like that. So everyone assumes that she killed her best friend, but she doesn't have, or like, there's not really any proof. There's not, like, evidence or anything like that. It's just everyone's kind of conviction that she's guilty. And Lucy ends up moving away, to get away from the rumors and, kind of that small town mentality where everyone thinks that you're guilty. And 5 years later, someone decides to make a podcast about Savvy and her murder. And Lucy ends up returning to her hometown to help this podcaster kind of figure out what happened and who killed her best friend, whether it's her and she didn't know that she did it, or if it's someone else. So I don't know, I enjoyed it. I kept wanting to read it. I read it obviously in 2 days, so I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a good one. Then we have Bought, which is a just pure smut. It's like a sex club auction, very little, actual plot or actual story. It is what it is, 3 stars. Then we have None of This Is True. This was my favorite book for the month. I really enjoyed this one. So after I finished this book, I told my best friend, because we get book of the months, we get the same book of the month every month, and so then we can read it and kind of compare, even if it doesn't always happen in that same month. Sometimes we're a little behind on reading, but I finished this one, and then I was telling her that I enjoyed it, and then she said, "Which podcast book did you read?" And then she said that she liked this one better. So then, of course, I wanted to read that one next. So None of This Is True. involves two people, Alex and Josie. And they end up just coincidentally celebrating their birthday at the same restaurant. They find out they have the same birthday. You know, they were born in the same hospital. They're birthday twins. And Josie is really captivated by Alex's life. Alex is a podcaster. She has, you know, a nice house, you know, kind of beautiful clothes. She kind of has it all. And Josie doesn't. And so Josie finds a way for them to meet again and convinces Alex that she should do a podcast on Josie's life because she's just this average person who has kind of an you know, extraordinary story. And, you know, she's talking about how she's going to change her life. And, you know, Alex is in between projects and she decides, you know, kind of why not. And Josie tells a very wild, extraordinary tale regarding her life. And as the title states, you know, none of this is true. So you know that the other shoe is going to drop. You know that something's going to happen. You know that, you know, everything she's saying just, you know, can't be true. But then you're also wondering, you know, some of it has to be true, or parts of it have to be true, or what's true, what's not. And so I really enjoyed this one. I wanted to just keep reading it, and I would have read it faster, other than just life was busy, but I just couldn't wait to finish it. I loved this one. So I gave that one 5 stars. Then the last book I read for this month was another book of the month. This one was Margot's Got Money Troubles. And this one was kind of like a comedic fiction. So you have Margot. She is a college student who ends up having an affair with her professor. She gets pregnant. Her professor, you know, wants nothing to do with it. Everyone tries to convince her to get rid of the baby, but naively, she decides that she wants to keep it. And, you know, then after she has the baby, she realizes things are a lot harder than she anticipated, and she's got, you know, bills to pay. She loses her job. She dropped out of school. Her roommates moved out because having a baby is tough and they didn't sign up for that. And so, you know, she's definitely in a pickle. She needs money. So she ends up turning to OnlyFans to create an account and, you know, start making money that way. So it's just kind of like a funny, I don't want to say lighthearted, but it's definitely like just a kind of a funny comedic book. She also has her dad, who is like an ex-wrestler, who ends up moving in with her because he's having issues with his own life. And so so you just had a lot of like interesting characters. There's a lot of like wrestling analogies, which wrestling isn't something that I'm really into, but it was just interesting, like how they kind of you know, talked about creating a character and creating a persona, and, you know, how that also translates into her OnlyFans account. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought this one was fun. It was, you know, quick, easy, lighthearted kind of read. There were a couple of parts that got a little deeper, but all in all, I just thought this one was just a fun read. So I gave that one 4 stars. So that was everything I read this month. Definitely like a shorter video because I just didn't read as much. But like I said, July is already shaping up to be a better reading month than June. Not that it had a high bar to clear. I've already finished Oliver Twist, which I'm so excited for finishing that because it's been like forever that I've been working on that one. And so I definitely look forward to talking to you guys again, you know, next month when we talk about July. So have a good day, and I will see you later. Bye.